Okay, like I just said, the need for third spaces. What are third spaces? Why are third spaces super important? The definition of a third space for me is a place that you can go and spend time that's not a place you're renting or living. It's not your work. It's a third space. It's a space you can go to hang out with your friends. That's not a place that you're there for some sort of other specific reason, which meaning like living or working. Bars are a great example of a third space, right? Like a bar is somewhere you go with your friends. It's somewhere you go to socialize. It's somewhere that's not anybody's home. It's a place you go meet. That maybe is a better definition for a third space. A third space is a place that you go meet other humans, that you go connect, that you go drop in, that you are going and drop into physical relationship with your fellow humans, your community. Why do we need third spaces? Why are the third spaces important? First of all, what is a third space? A third space is a place you're going that you're not living at or working at. It's a community environment. It's community space. You're going to either be by yourself but be around community. You're going to see your friends. You're going to connect and learn something new. You're going to find out about something new. So a couple live examples of third spaces that we already have. A bar is a third space. A rock climbing gym is a third space. A yoga shala is a third space. Let's see. Parks are third spaces. Great third spaces to go to. Rivers are great third spaces. Bowling alleys are great third spaces. Going to get food places is a third space, technically. And this is the conversation. How do we evolve third spaces? How should we evolve third spaces? What could third spaces look like? And this is something I was talking to my sister the other day, and I've just been in this conversation with a few of my friends, people in community, about third spaces and around third spaces. And I was realizing in this conversation, I was like, wait a minute, because with the capitalistic structure that we're in, most places you have to pay for. All those things I mentioned earlier, yoga, rock climbing, bowling, bar, you have to pay something. And that's not necessarily bad, like going to, show up and pay your dues to spend time in this space and to help pay for it to run, not a bad thing at all. And how can we tweak that way of showing up, evolve that way of showing up, show up in a different way, engage with that in a different way? And I was realizing, a lot of these clothing stores, quote unquote, could be really, really nice third spaces. Hobby stores like Hobby Lobby or Michael's could be really cool third spaces. What was the other one? Editing and creative hubs, really, really cool. Could be a really, really cool third space. There's a lot of spaces like this out in Boulder, which is where I'm based or where I have been based in the past. There's some really cool third spaces. Most of these spaces cost membership. So it's like right now we're still moving into the third space environment with this paid tier structure of how you get into it. And I'm not against that because it's giving us the option, but I don't love that. How can we create it to where it's a little bit more of like a reciprocity thing? You show up and you give to the space in the environment, and then you can spend time and have space and time in the environment. It's weird because it's like this conversation is pushing the edge of how we show up in society as a whole. Europe has a lot more healthier structures around third spaces, and that's because Europe has more history of tribal community living. And that's what this is about. Third spaces are designed and are there for the tribal community living. There's so much individualization in our culture. There's so much identity isolation in our culture. So we don't have these feelings and spaces of going to be able to connect, to drop in, to share ideas, to share creation, to share ourselves and to be seen and not to feel so lonely. We humans are not supposed to be living in a vacuum. We are living in a vacuum as a culture and as a people and as a place, especially in the West. I mean, especially everywhere. We've westernized a lot of the globe, and so a lot of places right now have kind of lost this felt sense of like, what does a third space look like? And, a lot of the native communities and a lot of the indigenous people all over the world still are really involved with cultivating this kind of energy, cultivating this environment. Like the Hawaiian culture is really good at this, and in Hawaii, it's obviously the third space is the island. The whole space is a vibe to go be in. And also, there's structured community around how those third spaces operate, how they show up, how you can show up. And I think that that's really valuable. And I think that, again, this video is me just kind of talking about this idea because it's something that I'm really kind of downloading and absorbing right now. It's not something that we can necessarily solve immediately, but we can set intention to create third space environments, third space events, third space engagement. And there's a lot of that happening, and there's a lot of that going down. But even just like hitting up a bunch of your friends and saying, yo, like once a month we should just go outside to a park and have a third space vibe where everybody shows up and they bring food or they bring a certain thing to the table, they bring a certain environment. You show up and add to the collective pool of what's alive. But then you get to share bread with one another. You get to share time with one another. You get to share connection with one another. And you get to be involved in a really nice community experience that you've created with yourself. And it's not like a paid thing. You just went to the park. You went to the thing and you played Capture the Flag, or you went to the thing and you played, let your inner child out, let that joy come out, right? And I think that we need more of that in this culture right now, where there's so much happening, there's so much chaos going on, but we need to remember that A, we're not designed to be holding it all, and B, we're designed to be moving through it all together. How do we create and cultivate this third space kind of environments? And even for like stuff like hobby stores, kind of like what I was mentioning, the hobby stores, the clothing stores, editing hubs, that kind of thing. What I mean by that is what I say, instead of just going to Hobby Lobby, it'd be really cool if like you could go to Hobby Lobby, and again, I'm just imagining, it'd be really cool if you could go to Hobby Lobby and Hobby Lobby was literally just a craft space. Somehow it was set up to where you were paying for whatever you were taking and using, maybe, like if you took it home or if you took it to this other thing, but it was also a space where you knew you could show up and either pay like a little membership, or I don't know what the payment structure would be. I don't know how the capitalistic thing would be involved with that, but it's like a space you can go and like learn from other craftsmen. You can go learn how to do this or that, scrapbook or draw, or, it's a place you go and you with paper and pen, quote unquote, and you go create. And that space is literally there, and it's running, at a certain time of day, but it's running all the time. Like you can just go spend time there. You can just go take, if you get off work or whatever, you go and enjoy in that environment, and there's just crafting happening. There's just communication happening, community happening. Ideas are happening, pooling, right? Like what a different way to think about a place like Hobby Lobby. The space is there. It's a big enough space for it. You just had to reorient how it's kind of structured and set up. It's not like a hard jump. They have literally all the stuff there that you would need to do that. And again, I'm just imagining, obviously I know that that's not possible in this corporative structure, but I'm imagining like we're going through this death as a society. There's a death happening, right? That's not, I'm not fear-mongering with that. It's objective. Everything in nature dies. It's beautiful, actually. And what does the rebirth look like? What does the composting system look like? How do we kind of cultivate these new ideas to think about things in a different way, but really use the old structure that we had to create it? Same thing with like a clothing store. You could go and it could be a fashionista place. Everybody who's there is like in this creative space of fashion. And you can learn and you can ask questions, and this is kind of already what it is, but how do you kind of like intentionally bring that to the table? What would that look like? How would that feel? Same thing with like a coffee shop, creative space, visual art, painting, that kind of thing, storytelling, right? What would a space look like for a philosophers or mystics environment where they could come and they could just share ideas and share new ways of pushing boundaries, that kind of thing. Again, we're in this modern world, and I'm really trying to break down the structure that we are in and move into a structure of my own imagination and visualize what it could look like, what it could feel like, what it could mean to be creative and in culture, and how we could use the systems that are already around us, and all we have to do is tweak it. It's like cooking. We're just throwing in a couple different extra spices and seasonings and making something completely new. So yeah, the third space environment. What do you think? What do you think would be a cool third space? Van places, mechanical school. It could be a mechanical school, and you could go be learning that, and you could go be steeped in that environment if that's what you want to do with your purpose. But you could also show up on the weekends, and for, a couple months, you could just be going on the weekends and getting a general idea of like how to work on your car, right? How to work on your vehicle, right? So instead of it being this kind of closed off, you've got to pay to get in environment, it's like, no, like you can pay a little membership and come learn. and kind of help the ecosystem and the reciprocity of it all run. I think that that's really valuable, and I think that will also create and generate more connectivity and relationship to one another as we move back into more connection and tribal intention. Not tribal in that old sense, but tribal in the sense of community environments. I think that that could be really cool. So yeah, it's just been something I'm thinking about. Third spaces, what do they feel like to you? What could they feel like to you? Do you think about that? Have you ever thought about that? Help me expand this conversation. What else could it be? What would you say a third space could look like? Let me know in the comments below. I'll chat with you guys soon. Peace.